and welcome to the How We Do Digital Ministry podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Elia. Today's episode is sponsored by Faith Growth. Church websites are notorious for frustrating church staff, being difficult to navigate, and looking dated. Faith Growth builds simple and beautiful church websites that are easy to update so churches can reach their community. They've helped hundreds of churches revitalize their web presence and can do the same for you. Head over to faithgrowth.com to book a free consultation today, but schedule that later in your day because right now we are on this podcast where we talk to leaders who are out in the world engaging folks through digital ministry. Today, I am delighted to have Reverend Beth Wyndham from St. Nicholas Episcopal Church in Bulverde, Texas. Rev Beth, please introduce yourself and tell us how you do digital ministry.
Sure. I'm happy to. Well, I'm Beth. I'm super glad to be here with y'all. And yes, we are in Bulverde, Texas, which is about a half an hour away from downtown San Antonio. And St. Nicholas, I'm the founding pastor of St. Nicholas. So we are a church plant that started in December of 2019. So we had all of about 3 months of worship before the world shut down. And then we had about a year of hanging on and having to pivot to online ministry very quickly in our lifespan. Sure. And then started to be in person and stay online in 2021. But Texas also had creative things like a snowstorm in February that shut us back down and all these extra challenges. And so really, we feel like we have relaunched our community in August of last year in a new space and have been embracing our life in person and online renewed since August of 2021. So we are in this interesting position of having spent a huge portion of our new church life online, more so than in person, which I often confess to myself and to others that if it had not been for COVID, I'm not sure that I would have been doing the same things online so quickly. Mm-hmm. I think if I'm honest with myself and others, I would have been sort of dragging my feet and, we don't need worship online and we can just be in person. And I probably also would have gone to a online presence more than online ministry. And what I mean by that is I probably would have done what I think I see a lot of us churches do, which is like, come to church. We have this event, come and visit us. We have this Easter service, Christmas, or back to school blessing. And when I look at our beginning social media posts, that's all we did. Where with COVID, we had to really think hard about how do we reach people that we're not seeing in person anymore? Mm-hmm. And how, as a new community, when we're missing these valuable opportunities for people to bond together, are there ways that we can create those bonding moments together? And so for us, when we started our online ministry, we did Zoom Bible studies, we did online worship. And then we also looked at where were gaps in social media presence, where were gaps within our diocese. So I'm an Episcopal priest, so we have our diocese. Where were gaps of ministries that weren't happening for either our people or for people in our area? And so during COVID or the height of it, we created things like Saints in Under 77 Seconds, where we could do a little video clip about saints, teach a little tiny bit. And in the Episcopal Church, there's, Lent Madness, and that only happens during Lent, but we could do this year round. And it helped us feel like we were also educating our little community of faith in a way when we couldn't meet in person. And then we started like a minute message for kids, where I would do a few videos for kids and try to teach on prayer. And so that's how we started our online ministry. And so we quickly got to the point where we knew we wanted to have a ministry where both our little group of people, as well as those whose faith is known to them and God alone, that we could create a presence of ministry, of sharing the good news in a time when the world is hurting, and engage and inspire and inform, and then lastly, invite people into our life together. And so we've tried, I think, sometimes hit it right on the nose and sometimes not. But we've tried to create online ministries that meet people where they are, just like we're trying to do in person.
Sure.
So that's a really concise version of the last 3 years of online ministry for us.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, what amazing challenges and opportunities provided in that intersection to you. I wonder if you can share, I mean, this new community, you're just getting started, you barely had an opportunity to introduce yourself, right? And then this world crashes here. How do you do that? How do you introduce yourself, connect to people, you haven't had a chance to meet yet?
So right. So what we did was we tried to take some old school ministry values and some pivoting or new ways of doing ministry. So with our online worship, that was obviously our main way of gathering people during COVID. And we were already a place where we didn't want to do bulletins or have books. We wanted to keep everything simple. So we were already doing screens, and people would just come in and just be able to come and be, because we're trying to reach unchurched people in our area. So we wanted to keep it simple. So when we pivoted to online worship, we tried to make it so that it would feel like they were there in the space with us. So everything they needed, we didn't do, PDFs of bulletins and, keep track of this paper while you're watching on screen. Everything is on the screen, just like it would be in person. So that was good. And I have to say, we had a team of tech volunteers who did research and who worked really hard to get that part going. And when I had days where I was like, oh, we just need to get it done, I don't care, they were like, no, it needs to be just like it would be in person. So that's one of the ways that we tried to meet people where they were. We also, when it comes to the newness, I would text people a lot and call people. And then we would do some old school, like, we would just do simple care packages like once a month and go drop them off on porches where we could see each other outside and just say hi. So we did this weird combination of old school pastoral care and new ministry. But when I think about the relationships that I was blessed to hold on to during this time, it was through lots of texting prayers, lots of phone conversations, and just being there pastorally for people when we couldn't be face to face. And then when we could meet in person, we knew that we weren't going to stop offering online ministry, right? That we knew that we would continue worship and that we would continue to cultivate our social media ministries and participation in that. And that was the other thing, that as a new community of faith, we were also challenged to think about, how do we get people involved? Like when they would be volunteering in the church, was there a way we could get people involved in our online ministries that would help them connect to us, that we would get to know each other? And so, our Stations of the Cross, the first year, we had people recording it. We had an artist create the work for us, and then different families of all ages, because we are a multi-generational community of faith. So you have older people and little kids sharing on the stations. We would have parishioners offer prayers and recording or in art, and we'd post those online. And so I think that helped us begin to set up a DNA of participation in the life of our church in a way that I'm not sure would have otherwise been there. Mm-hmm. And that still happens now, even as we're meeting in person and online. We continuously try to include our folks in our online offerings. So, on our Instagram, we'll have some reels of our Bible journaling class where we're, creating images to scripture, and I'll film someone's artwork. And one lady was sharing just today that her daughter, I think, posted, "Hey, that's my mom's hand." And her daughter, I don't think her daughter's ever been to our church, but it's so nice that she's checked out our site. And right. There's just this fun kind of joyous connection of, yeah, it is your mom's hand. And it's just a glimpse. It's a glimpse into our community. It's a glimpse of this unusual way of looking at scripture, and just bringing a little joy online where I think often joy is needed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. You've mentioned it a bit, but I want to hear more about it. The involvement of children and family in your ministry, and particularly online ministry. I was really struck by that in perusing your materials, how important that is.
It is very important to us. So we are a community that was founded in joy, hence the name St. Nicholas, right? And he is the patron saint of children. And so we are cultivating space online and in person to be a place where children and youth can be empowered to know that they are ministers now. They are not the future of the church. They don't have to wait, but they have this power now. And so our indoor space is set up in such a way that we have some art tables for children and adults, and we have a playground for our kids where we have liturgical play materials that they can use during worship. And so if they create artwork or play with the materials, then we're often catching pictures of it. Or a lot of the kids will come to me after the worship and show me their artwork, and they make sure I take pictures because they know I'm going to post this online, thanking God for creativity, or thanking God for children, or thanking God for something. And so they're learning through this experience that they have the power to share God. Right. And like last week, it was so great during worship. So I did a children's sermon, and I used a picture from the week before where a new little person who is brand new to our church, not sure if he's ever been in church. That's how new they are. And he had taken all of our stuffed animals, our loveys, and he had made a circle with them and put our play chalice and our play paten, and it looked like all the animals were being given communion. And I used that picture and I used that example in my children's sermon. And the little boy through the whole sermon is like, I did that. Right. And I'm like, yes, you did. And that was so great. And, how empowering for a child to know, like, his example was used as a faith example, or your beautiful artwork has been used to spread joy online when, as I said before, it's so needed. And so part of our call as a church is to empower our children to know they can share the love of God in their own way. And that is exciting. I mean, that is, to me, that is just so exciting. And there's so much potential of what we as churches can do and create to let that happen. So one of the other realities, I know I keep on going on and on, but one of the other realities for us is we don't have a history, right? We don't have the same traditions that a church that's established have or has. And so we are coming in a place of, well, we don't have a Sunday school yet. And so how are we going to create formation opportunities for our children and for our adults? And is there a way for us to do that where we can embrace our online ministries and embrace our in-person ministries and combine them? And that's one of the things that we're looking at now as we look to the future of what we're called to do in our context as St. Nicholas. As we look to our future, what is the best way forward for us? And so, we anticipate that next fall, we will actually have a St. Nicholas Art and Social Ministry, where part of our formational gatherings will be to gather a multi-generational group of people once a month, where we create art and formational activities that we can share online. And our kids will learn about or kids and adults will learn something of faith. We'll be able to share it online. And then who knows who might be inspired online that may never come to a church, may never be part of our community, but might find something hopeful and something joyous and something loving in what has been presented. And then our littles and our youth get to realize that this media tool is meant for good and for relationship, that it's not meant to be divisive, right? And so we get to be part of teaching that. And I think that's really exciting. Yeah. For us, that's something that we believe we're being called to for the future. And it's going to be empowering for all of us. And who knows how it'll really play out or look, but how cool, right? That we don't have the 50-year history of Sunday school from 10 to 11 and in a room. So we get to play and experiment, and some things will work and some things will be like, oh, let's not do that again.
Is your church website a mess? It could be difficult to navigate or doesn't represent you well. You want your site to be more than just an online brochure, but you don't know how to make that happen. Imagine having a beautiful, easy-to-use website for your church that helps people find the information they need about your church and its ministries quickly and easily. Faith Growth will build a beautiful, effective, user-friendly website for your church in as little as 4 weeks. Our process includes everything from a free initial consultation to the full setup and training so you can grow your digital presence and reach your community. Schedule a consultation at faithgrowth.com, or if you're not ready yet, get your free guide explaining the process to get a website that reaches people and gets results by going to faithgrowth.com/guide.
I love this perspective of faith formation also turning into invitation, sharing, almost like you're building faith influences as well, right? I mean, that the children know, and we want to share my art and my projects, and the adults too. But that outward focus, actually, because of the digital ministry, is sort of already implanted in them, that this is for us, it's also for the broader world here. That's
Right.
really, really
Right.
interesting. Really cool.
Well, and that is something we talk about in our community, where our social media, our website, it is in some respects for our community, but that it is also one of the ways in which we're choosing to share the love of God with others,
Mhm.
right? And so some of what is shared is specific to the community, like, here's what's going on this week, or don't forget, we have dinner church on Wednesday and this Bible study and that kind of information. But then we also have our latest experiment is prayer reels, where the young woman who helps me with our social media, she and I have been talking for a couple months about, how do we as Episcopalians and as St. Nicholas authentically represent ourselves online as a joyous community of faith, where we aren't just capturing trends or doing what the world does, but actually offering something of hope and love. And this young woman took a prayer I had written for Mother's Day and posted it, and suggested some music for me. And it just, for us, we're a church of like 67 people on a Sunday, and we ended up with 20,000 views. And we were like, well, hopefully only half of those were bots. And hopefully someone found hope and comfort in what was offered. And so for Emily, this young woman, and I, part of our prayer life and our life together has been, how do we continue to offer, this hopefulness and love and inspiration to people who really just want a nugget of help to get through the week, right? A nugget of help to get through the day. And we could be a part of that. And for us to be able to help our congregation know that they can be a part of that, I think is embracing God's vision for the world online, right? Is that this is meant for relationship and goodness, and we could play a part in that. And that's motivating and exciting, and it's work that so many churches are doing, right? We are working so hard to learn how to do this faithful online ministry, and churches are doing it in so many different ways. And I know for us, we are constantly inspired by other churches of all denominational contexts. So it's exciting to me.
No, it is exciting. It's good to be reminded that this is opportunities and experimenting and creative and hopeful, ultimately what we're all trying to accomplish together. So now that we find yourself back in this situation where you have the digital ministries happening, even expanding, new plans for the future, and in-person worship and dinners and educational events and all of this stuff, how are you balancing all of this? Are you okay?
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
I think we're okay. Because everything is new, it doesn't feel like we have set patterns, right? In the life of a church plant, you feel like you're changing and growing constantly. And so there's always a sense of, at least what I've experienced, is a sense of momentum and the sense of change constantly. So we don't necessarily have a set pattern. We are trying to come up with ways that we can move forward in our ministry that combine both in person and online, right? So they're not against each other. They're running parallel and helping to form and inform each other. And so, this woman that's helping me, she and I meet once a week, and we're going to spend the summer planning out the year and saying, okay, what is of value? What can we get rid of? just some strategic thinking through what is it we hear. And I think this is the biggest deal too, is what do we hear that our people in the world want? Because I think what we do as churches also is we assume we know what people want or what they need. And so we just charge forward. And so we're trying to just sort of listen to what people want and need and then respond. And so, for example, for Holy Week, we did some experiments on, what is Holy Week and educational ministry. And we ended up with some great feedback of, hey, that's so helpful. It was a snippet. I could teach my kid. And so we're going to keep doing those types of things and try to learn as we go along. What's the necessary information that people need? Can we give them just a bite and that can be informative or helpful? And so I guess that's a really long-winded way of saying we're trying to work together and collaborate to really listen to our online and in-person community to figure out balance.
Sure.
And then take the time in sort of the summer to be renewed and inspired so that we can try out these new ministries in the fall, and that we have a plan going forward. So we're not like, oh, what do we do September? It's all planned out. And I think the other piece of the balance is not being afraid to include our congregation in this. That there are some opportunities for some housebound folks or immune compromised folks that maybe can't come in person, but may be able to look up scriptures for us or send us their favorite prayers or create artwork, or to include them in a way in our relationship that honors their gifts. And so that's the other piece, is allowing this to be something from the congregation, not just a paid position, because as a church plant, I don't have the extra income either, right? So it needs to be highly participatory, but also held up with here are our values. It needs to relate to this. And so that's the other piece that we're looking at as well. And I don't know how that's going to balance. I don't know, there is no balance in a church plant life. So, we'll just toss those things that don't work and just keep on experimenting. And, and again, with our in-person, it's for us, everything is new. This past Easter was truly our first Easter.
Yeah.
And this past Christmas was truly our first Christmas. And, because it's just all been so different during the heightened parts of COVID. And so we're just giving ourselves a lot of permission to, the word that keeps coming up is experiment and try new things in person and online. And, and try to remember just to have fun with it. That this is, creativity is a gift God has given all of us. And we get to co-create with God in this particular way. And how exciting is that? Because we're reaching people and connecting with people in ways that I never imagined when I thought about a church plant, that I would have developed the relationships I have online with our neighbors and the businesses in the community. And, those other pieces too, which I think we forget, that one of the beautiful gifts that social media gives us is we can support other businesses in our towns and reach out to them in ways that we don't always have time to do in person. And so highlighting their efforts or encouraging them, and even encouraging other churches, those things are beautiful gifts to the world and to one another. They're a way for us to encourage each other and build each other up in faith. And we get to do that as, new digital ministers.
Excellent. Wow, so much to think about. I love this idea of balancing enthusiasm with discernment and working through excitement about the future, but some pragmatism in there too, and particularly around what's actually needed, rather than, because we can run out in the street and create all kinds of things, can't we? So we're about out of time. So I wanted to just kind of give you an opportunity if there was just something you really want to share with folks, or maybe a misconception you want to challenge, or, kind of a last word to your colleagues out experimenting in the field right now.
I think just encouragement, right? I am so inspired by all of our efforts when I know, we know ministry is busy and we're caring for our people and we want to be in person, right? And we miss what was so often. But I think this new world that is in front of us, that is changing us and forming us and showing us God in new ways, to keep our eyes open and our hearts open to see that wonder at work online, and how it can happen in person as well. And to know that especially for my colleagues, what you're putting out into the world does make a difference, right? It inspires me. It helps me grow and learn. Your, the way you've set up your altar, or the way you've shared about a particular school, class, or the way you've set up your study, all that stuff matters and is inspiring one another and encouraging us. And it's kind of reminds me of there's a saying, and I don't know who said it, but like the best form of flattery is impersonation, right? Where if you're copying someone, it is this form of flattery and you're inspired by them. And I think about that, when you think about the trends that happen on social media, or the different ideas that churches have, and when we're inspired by that and we can figure out how something of that might work in our context, I think that's God at work, and we're all making a difference to one another, and I believe to a world that needs hope and inspiration and a ton of joy, and what we put out there matters. So
yeah. Well, thank you, Reverend Beth. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I want to invite everybody who is listening to join our Facebook group, How We Do Digital Ministry. It's a place for you to discuss digital ministry in the rest of the week when you aren't listening to this podcast. But do like and subscribe us so you won't miss an episode. But until next week, peace and blessings to you all.